This is the SC to your Supra, the WRX to your STI, the 3 Series to your M3. And today I'm going to show you what makes the 330 so desirable and why the prices keep going up. After that, I will show you some of my favorite features, take it for a drive and give you some driving impressions, and then in the end, I will point out some of the things that you should look for if you're planning to buy one. The E46 BMW 330 Ci convertible, often called the 330 Ci-C, is like your favorite pair of sunglasses. Cool, classic, and it just makes every sunny day that much better. With a drop-top design and that timeless styling with the signature BMW driving experience, this car is just more than a vehicle. It's a statement on wheels. Let's dive into what makes the 330 Ci-C such a joy to own and drive even 2 decades later. First things first, this car just looks good. With its sleek lines and the subtle flared fenders on the body and that iconic BMW grille, the 330 just embodies that classic BMW design language from the early 2000s. The power-operated soft top folds down smoothly in seconds, making it a breeze to enjoy top-down driving. Step inside and the cabin wraps you in classic German luxury. The leather seats are plush yet supportive and just with the right amount of bolstering to keep you steady on those twisty roads. The driver-focused layout makes everything easily accessible, and the dash has a simple, unclustered design. Sure, some of the tech might feel a little bit outdated compared to today's standards with the touchscreens and all that, but there's a charm in the analog dials and the simple climate controls. Plus, with the heated seats and dual zone climate controls, you'll stay comfortable whether the top is up or down. Under the hood, the 330 Ci-C has a 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine producing 225 horsepower. It delivers a smooth yet punchy performance. This engine is paired with a 5-speed automatic, or if you're lucky enough, a 5-speed manual transmission. It's not just about straight line speed though. The 330 Ci-C shines in the corners thanks to its balanced chassis and responsive steering. BMW's rear-wheel drive setup keeps things engaging, making every drive feel like a mini adventure. 0 to 60 comes in at around 6.5 seconds, which was pretty quick for its time. And it still feels pretty peppy today. Sure, the trunk space is a bit compromised with the convertible top, but there's still enough room for a weekend bag or two. And the back seats are more for small friends or kids kind of space. If practicality was your main concern, you probably wouldn't be looking for a convertible anyway. Like any older BMW, the 330 Ci-C requires a little love and attention. Keep up with regular maintenance, oil changes, cooling system checks, and be prepared to replace a few wear items here and there. And it will reward you with years of driving pleasure. The good news, the E46 chassis is well documented among enthusiasts, and so parts are generally available, whether from OEM suppliers or the aftermarket. Plus, there's a thriving community of owners out there always willing to share advice and tips. Now, let's walk around the car and take a look at the interior where I'll show you some of my favorite features. Then we'll take it for a drive and show you some of the things that you should look for if you're planning to buy one of these. Starting right out here with the mirror. Now I'm gonna go through a bunch of different features. There's too many to highlight them all on this car, but I'm gonna go through 10 or 15 or so that are my favorite features on this car. Starting with this mirror right here. It is equipped with slats or ridges right up here in the mirror. You can call this mini canards to funnel the air in this direction and roll down all the windows with your remote from the outside, or simply inserting the key and turning it to the lock position or unlock to open up the windows. So this includes the sunroof for the sunroof equipped cars or the convertible top for convertible cars. To do this, simply press the lock or unlock button depending on what you want to do, and keep holding it there. Or you can do it manually, inserting the key to the lock or unlock position depending if you want the windows up or down. The keyless entry system uses the antenna in the back window to extend the range of your remote. Flashing the high beams after parking the vehicle and turning the ignition off would actually leave the lights on for a preset amount of time to provide you security at nighttime. There is thigh support right here that you can manually adjust. There's a secret compartment right in here to put all of your coins. There's a BMW branded flashlight that is attached to the body in the glove compartment so that you can use it in the case of an emergency. Put your turn signal on either left or right, close the door and walk away, and the turn signal light will stay lit. This is a safety feature for small streets where you need people to see that your car is there. And so much more. We don't have time to go over everything. This video will be an hour long. But look, this is a very nice interior. You have your Windows controls here. You have your climate control and entertainment system with a business CD as well. And in the steering wheel, you can control your audio as well as your cruise control, wiper controls here, turn signals, lighting, etc. I can definitely see why people like the E46. I mean, look at my shoulders, look at where the window sill is. I get a lot more exposure to the road. And let's not forget, this is, top quality year building for BMW. They build some of the best cars, pretty much the best M5 you can get right around this era. So the driving dynamics are great. And with a car like this, you got great chassis balance, great suspension, great feel overall. Now, I personally really like the E90 chassis just because of the sitting position and just the overall feel of the car. I tend to really like the E90 better than the E46, but there's a lot of love. A lot of people like the E46 chassis. This era of BMW is so emblematic. I mean, it's so obvious you are in a BMW and nothing else when you are inside this car. And I think that really touches the heart. I mean, obviously, if you can get a manual 330, that is the best route. But you know what? This transmission is not the worst. It's smooth. It shifts decently, especially for the time period. By today's standards, it's obviously very slow shifting, but not too bad. The brakes are adequate. They're not anything special, but it is, for the time period, they're pretty adequate for the power output. The engine is very torquey and smooth. It gets going very quickly. And for a non-turbo car of that era, I mean, 225 horsepower, it's a fair amount of horsepower. And especially for a convertible car, the chassis is very, very rigid. You would think that it would be like, flopping into the wind, but it is not. And while the hardtop does offer more rigidity, what's better than to go out for a top-down drive on a sunny day? And now you're really pumped and excited to buy one of these. So allow me to highlight some of the things that you should look for if you're planning to buy one. I made a video to show you general things to look for when buying any car, like signs of wear, body shape, leaks, etc. I've also created a checklist so that you don't miss any of the steps. The links are included below. Use that as your starting point, but now let's dig into things to look for this car specifically that I think can be costly repairs. Now, keep in mind that it's never a bad idea to bring along a car-savvy friend who is familiar with these cars to help you look for things. If you found one you have your heart set on, I would also recommend that you get a PPI, a pre-purchase inspection done by an experienced BMW shop or the dealership. It'll be the best $200 you spend on the car. Also, be sure to discuss with the current owner the list of items that we will review in this section of the video. Additionally, the list of items that we're going to review apply to all Model 3 Series unless I specify otherwise. Right, so let's jump right into it. So first things first, let's talk about cooling system failures. The water pump, thermostat, and the expansion tanks seem to fail quite often. In order to identify this, look for leaks under the car, or if you smell, coolant burning. The temperature gauge fluctuating is also an indication that you can have a failing thermostat or water pump. If you see white smoke coming out of the exhaust, this could also be pointing to a head gasket issue due to overheating. Next, let's talk about vanos, or BMW's variable valve timing. Now, the seals on the vanos can typically fail, leading to reduced performance and rough idling. So if you notice a loss of low-end torque or sluggish acceleration, rough idling, or an uneven power band, sometimes this could be an indication of the vanos going bad. Next, let's talk about oil leaks, and some of the usual suspects are the valve cover gasket and oil filter housing gasket failures. To identify these, check for oil residue around the valve cover or oil filter housing. A burning oil smell can indicate oil leaking onto the exhaust manifold. And if you see a small oil spot on the ground after parking, it might be time for a gasket replacement. Next, let's talk about convertible top problems. Most of the common issues are motor failure, sensor issues, or hydraulic leaks. If the top struggles to open or close, it can indicate a failing motor or low hydraulic fluid. So listen for grinding or clicking noises during operation. Inconsistent operation might point out a sensor or alignment issues. Look for leaks in the trunk area where the hydraulic pump is also located. These could all be indicators of a top issue. Rear subframe cracks. Cracks in the rear subframe mounting points can be found. Listen for clunking or knocking noises when accelerating or braking. Pay attention to any unusual handling or alignment issues. Also, inspect underside of the car or have a mechanic do it for you. If you see any visible cracks or damage around the rear of the subframe, this can be a big concern. Next, let's talk about the window regulator failures. Some of the regulators in the E46 models, including the 330 Ci, are known to fail. And so if you have a slow moving window or a grinding noise when operating the window, or if the window gets stuck or falls into the door, it's a sign of a broken regulator. So listen for any clicking or popping sounds when using the power window switches. Suspension wear, especially on the control arm bushings and ball joints. The control arm bushings and ball joints wear out over time, leading to a less precise feel. So if you're hearing clunking noises from the front suspension when going over bumps or during slow speed runs or turns, a vague or wandering steering feel, uneven tire wear can also be a sign of worn out suspension components. Be sure to look into the bushings. The automatic transmission has been known to have torque converter issues, so be sure to engage every gear in the transmission and that it is operating smoothly, because that could be an indication of a bad torque converter or a bad transmission. And lastly, let's talk about electrical issues. Some of the common issues with the E46s are fading or missing pixels in the instrument cluster, faulty window switches, and other minor electrical gremlins. In order to identify these, look for missing or unreadable pixels on the dash display or the radio. Look for inconsistent operation of power windows or mirrors, and check all lights, buttons, and electronic functions to ensure that they are working as expected. And actually, there's one more. We almost forgot to talk about the recalls. The best option to find out recall information is to go to your manufacturer's website. I've linked that below. In the US, you can also visit the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The link is also included below. With either option, just enter your 17-digit VIN, and that will give you the list of open recalls for your vehicle.